What's up, everybody? This is my review of the Jazwares Mortal Kombat, Sub-Zero, and Scorpion action figures. Now, I'm starting the review with the weapons in their hands because I found it really difficult to get their weapons in the hands. The way that the hands were sculpted and the fact that the plastic itself that makes up the fingers was really inflexible. And we'll start off looking at Scorpion here. You can see he wields two swords. When I got the figure outside a package, there was an issue with the thumb and the finger here. It was fused together because of the paint. So what I did is I had to take a hobby knife and separate the thumb from this top finger there. Same thing with the other hand here. So there are some issues with getting the weapons into these figures' hands. I'll go ahead and take out the weapons now. And you can see even doing so is a little bit difficult. You know, taking them out even. There we go. And I'll show you just a little detailed look at the actual weapons here. Sadly, they're made of really flexible, soft plastic. I'm really disappointed that that's the way that Jazwares decided to make these weapons. And the reason they have holes in them is because if you look at the back here, you can actually mount them onto the back. There's a little bit of a peg here sticking out, and you can insert these like that for that kind of effect. So that's pretty cool. So I'll just take those out for now and remove them. And the other accessory that Scorpion here comes with is this spear tip. I don't think I'm calling it correctly, but that's what I'll call it and refer to it as. You can see it is sort of sculpted and painted so that it's kind of attached to maybe like a chain. And I think this is supposed to mimic the attack that Scorpion has when the spear tip comes out of his hand and it shoots forward. It would have been nice if they had like a peg hole at the palm of the hand so you could insert this in there for this type of effect like that. And maybe even go the extra mile of having a chain that you can insert here and kind of, you know, reenact one of his attack moves. But as it is, all you can do is insert it into his hand like that. You know, and that's kind of lame. So again, this is you know, soft, flexible plastic. Now, looking at the figure itself, we'll start off looking at the head sculpt, which thankfully on my example here, there is not a whole lot or really any paint overlap or paint issues. Now I do notice that the joints are a bit loose, especially at the hip and the knee, I guess. I mean, you can see how loose that is, and that's pretty much just straight outside of removing it from the package. In the way of articulation, the head can look left and right, a little bit up, as you can see there. Shoulders articulate. There is no bicep swivel or joint, which is kind of disappointing, but you do have a swivel and a bend at the elbow, a rotation at the wrist, and a pivot like that. He does have a ab joint, however it's pretty stiff, but you can see here you can articulate it, and actually as you loosen it up it's better actually. You can see there, it's starting to loosen up. There does not appear to be any waist articulation, which is fine with me. You can get a lot of movement like that, which is fine. You don't really need a waist joint, I don't think. You do have articulation at the legs, swivel at the thigh, bend and swivel at the knee, and the same at the ankle. So pretty cool. And essentially these two share the same articulation. So we'll put Sub-Zero here in the background, and again he has really loose joints for some reason. And we'll take a look at Sub-Zero. And you can see here is his weapon. And it's blue, but it has some white coloring to it. And I think that's just to mimic the effect of kind of being a sort of a frozen or icy look to it. So you've got that weapon there. Same articulation as Scorpion. I will say though, you can notice that their arms, the flesh color, it's actually paint. And generally, I prefer to have the actual flesh color be plastic instead of paint. It looks more realistic to have it as a plastic color. Well, not plastic color, but to have the plastic be the color rather than the paint. As it is, not too bad. Paint quality on both of them are pretty good. There's not a whole lot of slop or overrun or paint where it shouldn't be. You can see here on Scorpion's bicep here, there is just a little bit of lack of definition on these straps here, but it's not terribly bad. So one thing to point out about the figures is, yes, they do have articulation, but the range of articulation in certain areas is limited, especially on the Scorpion figure. For example, on Scorpion, you can see in terms of the range of articulation, there is quite a range at the shoulder area. However, when you get down to the hips, that's when you run into problems. Yes, there's articulation there, but really you can't go back because you clash against this plastic piece here, basically his bottom. You can't really go out to the side too far. That's as far as you can go because you clash against this piece of plastic here. And forward, well, that's about all you can get forward. Now it's interesting because while they do share the same articulation points, Sub-Zero here has a bit better of a setup in terms of the hips. You can see there's quite a range of articulation at the hip compared to Sub-Zero. Again, here we got the two compared next to each other. Sub-Zero can get his leg way out farther to the side when compared to Scorpion. Forward about the same, and back about the same, because you run into the same issue with the plastic piece here clashing. But definitely to the side like that, you get greater articulation with this Sub-Zero figure. So just a note, because yes, you may have good articulation, but there's also the issue of range of articulation. Well, let's start off with a Marvel Legends figure. And what would be more appropriate than having Deadpool next to a couple of ninjas? Here we go. Get Deadpool to stand. So Deadpool, yeah, he appears to be, adjust his head here, appears to be about the same size in height as these two figures. So that's Deadpool there. And then we'll take a look at a DC Universe Classics figure. We've got Deathstroke. And he seems to be about the same size as well. And just for fun, we have the Thundercats Panthro figure, which looks to be way too large for these figures. But, you know, not too large, but, you know, it's kind of cool to have these next to each other on the shelf. And finally, perhaps what most everybody wants to see in terms of a video game or just a collection on the shelf. Here are the Sota Kin and Sota Ryu figures, and you can see they are in pretty good size compared to the Jazwares figures. This has been a look at the Jazwares Sub-Zero and Scorpion from Mortal Kombat. Thanks for watching.